I have been tasked by the town to do something with the zoning ordinance. I have read and reread it, and I'm the only person who can act like they understand what we have now. The only reason I'm doing anything with it at all is because I think I can make my job even easier.
Oh, so you want to see the town progress into the 21st century?
No, that's not what I said. The people in this town are too stupid to breathe on their own. If they weren't, they would have fired me long ago, but I am too clever for them. I want to get them to eliminate any work for me by making all of the possible decisions ahead of time and then documenting them in this new ordinance. That way I don't have to decide anything and nothing can ever be my fault.
So what is the hold-up? It seems like you've been working on this for 5 years now.
The hold-up is these stupid sign regulations. For some reason which I cannot understand, the businesses in town are fighting me about them. I don't know who they think they are. They pay my salary and they depend upon these signs to stay in business, but that doesn't mean they know anything. As I said, they are clearly too stupid to be allowed to make decisions about such things.
What don't they like about your proposed sign regulations?
The sign regulations I am trying to get these bumpkins to adopt will make Brownsburg look just like every other community. Everyone who knows anything understands that we should not be trying anything new in this area. Success is defined by following the crowd, not by making up your own rules. What kind of a world would this be if we allowed creativity? It would be chaos. Regulation would be impossible.
That sounds like every other plan director and consultant I've ever heard. Why on earth would anyone oppose that?
Some of the morons opposing this most reasonable approach claim that it's bad practice to plant trees in front of signs, or to place roadside signs where drivers cannot see them without turning their heads. Everyone knows that people do not want to see signs as they drive along. If they want to see a sign, they will start looking out of their side windows to catch a quick glimpse of them between the trees. Lots of trees are the critical factor. Every town needs to hide behind trees so we can look like we are tree-friendly. Trees in nature are good. Man-made structures, especially anything connected to commerce and all its attendant evils, are bad.
Shouldn't drivers be looking at the road though? Isn't it dangerous to be looking around at things other than where you are going?
That's not my problem. We really don't want people to be looking at signs. I do not find it the least bit distracting that a sign is hidden behind a tree, because the sign should not be there in the first place. We just don't need them, and besides the regulations for them are a pain in the ass to administer anyway. Remember, I said this is about making my job easier, not this good of the community stuff. I could not care less if businesses stick around or not. My job is actually easier if they do not. Businesses make up most of my problems, so getting rid of them would also make less work for me.
So how are you responding to this opposition to your sign regulation proposal?
My primary response is to do nothing. I just don't answer emails. I also never answer my phone, so I therefore do not have to respond to phone messages either. I certainly do not bother to read anything given to me by the sign regulation team. Actually reading such documents is work, and my objective is to do less, not more, work. I have found that by just not responding I can actually get by with doing even less than you'd think.
Isn't that classic passive-aggressive behavior?
Some call it passive resistance, but it works quite effectively. As I said, I am quite clever and these people are quite stupid.
So what's your next line of defense?
Oh, that's quite easy. I just tell everyone who will listen that the sign regulation team's proposal is too complicated to work, and then I cite specially constructed weirdo cases I have dreamed up as examples. Of course, those are things that would never happen in the real world, but I don't live in the real world, so that doesn't make any difference. And the beauty of it is that these people are too stupid to realize that.
It's that easy.
Yes, and if that doesn't completely kill their initiative, I just say we need more input. If you continue asking for more input and more input and more input, you can actually fool them into thinking something very simple is really very complicated. The trick to remember is that you just have to discard the input you don't like and then say you don't have enough input. I will just outlast them. Remember, these idiots are paying me 40 hours a week, while their time is donated at their own expense. I can collect my salary forever, but at some point they won't be able to afford continuing to provide input. Sooner or later they will give up and go away, and I will win because I am still in my position waiting for them to quit. Then I get what I want by default because they quit.
That really works? Isn't that a terribly cynical approach?
You have obviously bought into the elected officials' claims of this being a participatory democracy where government functions with the consent of the governed. That is a fiction. The reality is that the show is actually run by minor functionaries such as myself who have gotten themselves into positions of power that are highly secure. I have persuaded everyone that I am so educated and so critical to the town's operation that they cannot live without me. The reality is that I cannot pour water out of a boot even if the instructions are printed on the sole, but that will just be our little secret.
But aren't you required to take public input?
Ha 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 ha. Now you are just making jokes. The public is only allowed to speak at official legally advertised public hearings, where we must let them speak for 3 minutes only. Then they must shut up and sit down. If someone is particularly obstinate, I will just schedule a workshop with them to get their idiotic ideas out of the way. That way they might think they are making a difference, but I just do not keep any notes, so whatever they say is quickly forgotten. I can then use this useless meeting as an example of trying to get additional input, but it won't count because I do not really want to hear from them at all. The public comment concept is the punchline to the really useless public input process. It only makes people feel better, it actually accomplishes nothing.
Don't those workshops take a lot of time?
Perhaps, but I use that to my advantage. I just delay scheduling them for as long as I can, and then have my consultant argue every point endlessly. Between those two responses, many months can be made to go by, and nothing of substance results. Finally, everyone gets tired of the lack of progress, so I blame the other party for taking up so much time. The whole situation becomes their fault for delaying the process. That sets the stage for their objections to be overruled, and they are seen as obstructionist and argumentative. In the end, things get done my way because this so-called public input process is so cumbersome no good can come of it. You will have to excuse me now as I have another commitment.
You have another important appointment?
Well, just the next step in killing off the sign regulation team. I have to conduct the next round of the magical mystical buster, which I have convinced the Plan Commission is critical to evaluating the sign regulations. We were going to drive them around until they are carsick and not let them off until they adopt my proposal. If they don't, then we will have to come up with some other gyration to get more input. But remember that this is only valid input if it supports my position, so do not worry that the sign regulation team will actually make any progress as a result of this.
That sounds like a convoluted and long drawn-out process.
You must be a business owner, because you really are much more stupid than you look. Why do you think it's taken me 5 years so far? If this citizen input continues, I may be able to retire before this new zoning ordinance is complete.